Hello, my tarot-loving friends. This is just a quick, short Q&A style video to answer a question that recently came in. So if you don't know me, I'm Angie from The Simple Tarot. The Simple Tarot is all about helping you learn how to read tarot cards so that you can use them as tools for creativity, personal development, self-care, just plain old fun even. And every month I host a live video Q&A where I hang out with my patrons, which is where we get to hang out and talk tarot together. Sometimes we talk about creativity and personal development and writing and everything related to tarot. It goes pretty deep. These are some of my very best tarot buddies. But they come up with the best questions, including the ones I'm going to cover today. So if you want to join me and this gaggle of tarot-loving friends at next month's Q&A, then just head over to Patreon where you can become a patron for less than a fancy coffee a month and get some fun extra bonuses too, as well as hanging out at that Q&A. So the question was, Angie, hey, how did you get started learning tarot? And this is a totally different question than how I got interested in tarot. So I'll do a different video on that one. But how did I get into tarot? Different story. How did I get started learning tarot? Kind of a hodgepodge and weirdness that might not be applicable to your tarot journey, but I'm happy to share. So learning tarot was originally the very first time I tried to learn tarot. I was in my 20s. Picked up the Wizard's Tarot from Barnes & Noble or something, and just tried to memorize the cards. I still love this deck, but it was way over my head at the time. Not just from trying to memorize 78 cards, but the spiritual aspect. I really thought you had to be super psychic or something to be able to read tarot. And of course you don't. But at the time, I really thought it. And I just felt like such a failure, could never memorize the cards, gave up pretty quickly. So that was my unsuccessful attempt, but I actually was successful the second time I really gave a lot of effort towards learning tarot. And this happened about 6 years ago. But the backstory and the thing you need to know is that creativity is my spiritual practice. So ever since I was little, I interact with the spiritual world, or my idea of what spirituality is, through creativity. I am not a whole person if I am not creating. So there hasn't been a time in my life when I haven't been writing or doing artwork or something. And so I was maybe about 6 years ago, a little struggling, we'll say a lot struggling, with some personal development issues. I was stuck. And when you're in your late 30s and stuck, it's hard. There's not a lot of resources out there for you, and you feel kind of like a total failure. So I was stuck in my personal life and looking for a new creative spiritual project. Now, the projects that I do for my creative spiritual practice don't need to be spiritual. It happens that tarot can be. Anyway, so at the time I was introduced to the tarot deck by a very handsome man who brought them on one of our dates. And he brought the Shadowscapes deck, which is a gorgeous deck, but not one that I recommend for beginners. But he introduced me to the pattern and the logic behind the cards, which I love organizing data. It's just one of my secret strengths or something. So I just saw immediately the potential that tarot, exploring the tarot, learning the card meanings, was going to be my creative spiritual project. It was how I was going to practice my creativity, my spirituality. So I turned learning tarot into an art project, and I took the original Rider-Waite-Smith deck and I redid those images. And I just did them in a mixed media art journal. I was just playing around, didn't intend to share it with anyone. But I got quickly obsessed because of the symbolism and the history, and I just started collecting lots of information about tarot. My friends kind of picked up that I was into something new, and they asked me questions, and I didn't have the answers. So I went out and did more research, and I love research, note cards and books. At one time I had a stack of 30 books on tarot and just flags and note cards sticking everywhere. And I loved it. I just love that. But too much information to keep in my brain. So I created a website. This was called back in the day, this was called Learn Tarot With Me. And it was really just a blog that I had turned into sort of a wiki, like a searchable database of information. So I could just go to the search bar and type in, what is the meaning of the Fool? And then all of my notes about the Fool would show up. So, again, like I get weird and obsessive and I just create things, but like this is how I interact with the world as my spirituality. So, learning through all of this because I got so obsessed, it happened naturally. I was doing something that's fun for me. I know it might sound weird, all of these weird rabbit holes and like not relatable to your life, but the thing that is relatable is that I was learning tarot easily because was doing things that were fun. The learning happened as a byproduct. And I think that if there's any lesson here, that's what the lesson is that make tarot as much fun as possible for you, both learning and reading it. So once I learned the tarot card meanings and got pretty comfortable with tarot, I took it even deeper by bringing it into my daily morning practice. So I have like a morning routine that I've practiced off and on, but pretty consistently for 8 or 9 years. Involves meditations and affirmations, a lot of journaling because I've been a writer and a journaler forever. So I started using tarot into that practice, especially tarot journaling. This changed my life. I told you I was stuck and pretty miserable about it, but tarot quickly pointed out all of the places I was keeping myself stuck. The tarot's just like an amazing tool for calling you out on your own BS. It like points out negative beliefs or repeating patterns or information that you're just not willing to see. Tarot did that for me in a big way. And so combined with some meditations and affirmations and the journaling, I was relatively quickly, able to change my life and make everything about it better. I am always grateful for tarot for doing that for me. And because I saw the potential for how life-changing tarot can be in my own life and in others, eventually the Learn Tarot With Me blog grew into becoming the Simple Tarot website and all of these products. It was not a very linear step, but it was like leaps and bounds. One thing led to another, led to another. So that's how we are ending up here today. I know this is not exactly like a reproducible pattern or activity. No, not everyone's going to become as obsessed about tarot or turn it into their business and their life's work. But my real advice for you, if you're learning how to read tarot cards, is to make it work for you. Find that thing that's fun, that's enjoyable about it. Who cares if it's weird? Like if it works for you, do that weird little thing. Like I created a website database and art, like that's weird, but it worked. And I am incredibly grateful I did because it changed my life. So I would love to see that happen for you. So I would love to know down in the comments if you could change one thing about your tarot practice to make it more fun or more interesting or more like you-ness. If you could change anything about your tarot practice right now, learning the cards or using the cards, let me know down in the comments what that could be. We can hang out down there together and like inspire each other to have a little bit more fun with our cards and our practice. So I will see you down in the comments. You leave the first one and I'll hang out with you there.